Hello, my name is Craig Seibert, and this short webinar is titled Requirements of Excellent Civic Leadership, Advice from a Representative of the Black Race. Now, if you've been following along so far in these ethnic studies in the realm of civics, recently I mentioned Moses as the prophet in the Old Testament that God gave the Ten Commandments to, that have become a cornerstone of Western society and culture. Moses was married to a woman named Zipporah, who came from the lineage of Ham, which was the dark-skinned or dark-colored son of Noah. Zipporah's father, Jethro, also was a descendant of Ham, and he was Moses' father-in-law. And in this particular webinar, we take a look at the ancient advice that was given from Jethro to Moses. And so by that advice being given from a descendant of Ham, Moses is receiving advice from his father-in-law in Exodus 18:20 through 22. And so for those African Americans and other people of ethnicity that are looking for their part of the civic story in the United States, it actually goes back 3,500 years. This advice is 3,500 years old. The advice is given by a representative of the black race, that is Jethro, a descendant of Ham. The advice is given to a representative of another people group, the descendants of Shem, the Semitic race, which was Moses. And this advice was followed by Moses, and then interestingly enough, centuries later, this advice was pursued by the founding fathers of the United States, who were descendants of Japheth. And so every ethnic group is playing a part of this societal role. And here is the actual advice. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you, and you cannot handle it alone. Now listen to me, and I'll give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to Him. Teach them the decrees and laws, and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And so what we'll take a look at right now is several key components that are requirements of excellence in civic leadership. The first item jumps right off the first part of the scripture passage. Civic leaders should have intimacy with God. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to Him. Leaders should have intimacy with God and a desire to submit to Him and follow Him. If they don't believe that their ultimate accountability is from someone that is bigger than just another human or some person in the human race, then they are likely to drift astray as a leader of a nation. And so leaders need to have intimacy with God, submit to Him, and follow Him. And I'll have a little more to say on this later. Second of all, citizens and future leaders should be instructed and mentored. The scripture passage shows up four things here. Teach them the decrees and laws and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. Well, if we were to break this down a little different in modern vernacular, what this means is that we need to have educated citizens, i.e. we're teaching them. Second of all, the decrees and laws implies that biblical principles need to be understood and followed. Show them the way to live would imply how to be self-governing, how to take responsibility for your affairs at a personal level and a family level. And then lastly, civic responsibilities. That is the duties they are to perform as a member of society. And so this is the second item of advice Jethro gives Moses, that future leaders should be instructed and mentored. Third, civic leaders must be capable and competent. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. And actually there's several more things in this passage, but looking at capable first, let's break that out a little bit. Capable and competent. That means they'd have proven people skills, proven leadership skills, and proven organizational and governing skills. These are acquired throughout all of our life, and so even early on in life, young children and then students and then young adults can gain these skills over time, even in the most rudimentary tasks, jobs, and activities, but they all produce capabilities and competence that they can use later as they lead others. Fourth, civic leaders must believe God and that God holds them accountable. And the same passage speaks to the fear of God, and what that actually means can be understood in these ways. Knowing and fearing God would imply humility, that they are a servant, that is, those that are in civil leadership are actually servants to the people. Humility that God has put them in this role. Humility that wisdom comes from God, and then humility that God will hold them accountable for their behavior in their role. And so the fear of God is sometimes a misunderstood phrase in the Bible, but these 4 points of humility would describe that well. Another part of this passage would be a fifth element. Civic leaders must be people of proven character. And using the same passage, we look further in it, and we see that a recommendation or requirement is that they're trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. Here's how I'd break that down. Character needs to be proven. That is, they need to believe in universal moral standards and truth. They need to aspire to these high standards. They need to have had their character tested and proven. In other words, it's just not empty words, but they've proven their character before others over time. And then ultimately, others know that they will do the right thing because their character has been put on display in the past. So to summarize, here are the elements. Intimacy with God, instructed and mentored in principles of civil government, capable and competent in civic or civil leadership, that they humbly follow God, and that they have proven and tested character. These are requirements of people that are aspiring to civic leadership, and this is what produces excellence. And I am just amazed that this advice comes from 3,500 years ago from a descendant of Ham to a descendant of Shem. And so to summarize as we close out, Jethro of the black race gives advice on requirements of civic leadership to Moses of the Semitic race, who takes advice and follows it. And then the founding fathers of the United States, the Japheth race, try to implement this advice in the United States under the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. So my name's Craig Seibert. I hope this has given you food for thought. Thanks for listening.